and also the immense hypocrisy of outsiders' criticisms of polygamous relationships as they exist in Utah, while at the same time embracing non-monogamous sexuality in the media, the Playboy Mansion, and even high levels of political offices. For the purposes of Mormon relations to polygamy, it must clearly be stated that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not endorse, condone, or sanction the earthly practice of plural marriage, but the relationship of a predominantly Mormon and non-polygamous culture and the between 30,000 and 70,000 polygamists in Utah is much more complex. The Church officially supports the anti-polygamy group Tapestry Against Polygamy, made up of women who have escaped from polygamous relationships, and which offers sanctuary and relief stuffs to women and children who have escaped from abusive marriages and homes. And yet the Mormon-dominated state government is willing to set aside anti-polygamy enforcement and prosecution because of much-needed law enforcement resources elsewhere. And these include the increasing gang violence in Utah urban areas, drug trafficking, and methamphetamine production. And Governor Leavitt admitted to this. The resources are simply not there to prosecute all of the polygamists, especially with all of the resulting public relations fiasco and the number of children that would become wards of the state if this prosecution did occur. Regarding the future of the Church's doctrinal relationship to polygamy, it seems unlikely that polygamy will ever be reinstated as an earthly institution, even if the Supreme Court were to reverse the anti-polygamy rulings of the 19th century. The risk for more negative hype is simply too great. And regarding the Church's continued cultural associations with polygamy, those are unlikely to subside either because of the Church's historical past. However, the continued proliferation of anti-polygamy sensationalist journalism is entirely dependent upon journalists themselves and their willingness to reject tabloid reporting in favor of honest, factual, and objective portrayals of the complexity of modern polygamous practice. So there's that. Did that sound preachy? Okay. I have about 5 minutes left, and I have a whole section on priesthood and patriarchy, which I'd encourage you all to read on the website, and so I'll skip ahead to my conclusion. Depending upon what framework for judgment is applied, it can be easy to interpret the Church's experience and history as misogynistic and oppressive, as some critics have claimed. However, for myself, and for many others with whom I'm acquainted, we seek to recognize where cultural changes have occurred over time, and many still might need to occur, but to ultimately acknowledge that the gospel itself is the source of our liberation and feelings of empowerment. If we did not see it that way, then we would not choose to stay, period. We are not sellouts. Daily and weekly, we see so many examples of gendered sharing that give us cause to hope and reason for reinforcement of our belief in this faith as the ultimately empowering faith. Like many women in the Church, we see ourselves as Mormons who happen to be women, rather than women who happen to be Mormons. This is an important distinction, since we find our liberation in the atonement of Jesus Christ, which offers us hope for redemption and eternal life, regardless of our gender. Our faith allows us direct access to God through personal revelation, prayer, and a relationship with Christ's atoning grace and individual application of scriptures. Furthermore, I know of few religions who promise godhood in the next life, as our religion does. I'd like to quote from, of course, a famously quoted Mormon woman, Sister Sherry Dew, who says, "The impact of righteous, determined, pure-hearted women today is immeasurable. It doesn't matter where you live, whether or not you have children, how much money you have, or how talented you think you are or aren't. This is a day when the Lord and His kingdom need women who are firmly grounded in their testimony of Jesus Christ, women of vision who have their sights trained on the purpose of life, women who can hear the voice of the Lord, expose the distractions of the adversary for what they are, and press forward with a sense of purpose and a desire to contribute. Women who are articulate as well as compassionate. Women who understand who they are and where they are going, and are determined to not let anything keep them from getting there. Good women all over the world are desperate for leadership, for role models, for the assurance born out in lives well lived, that families are important, that virtue is not outdated, and that it is possible to feel peace and purpose in a society spinning out of control. We have reason to be the most reassured, the most determined, the most confident of all women. In saying this, I don't minimize our personal disappointments, but we know what we're here for, and we know that we are beloved of the Lord." And finally, to those who have not been able to reconcile their feelings of perceived or real gender inequity in the Church, I echo the plea of Linda Hoffman Kimball, who said, "I have seen in recent years many of the Church's best and brightest bailing out, or being forced to bail. This is a cause of great heartbreak and loneliness. Here's my advice to those who are considering this route. To the extent that you have been affected and have a say in the matter, don't go. Don't go, if for no other reason than I need you. As for me, I have seen the deep image, felt that pulse, that divine juice beneath the sometimes majestic and sometimes morbid details on the surface of church experience. But I have seen, I am tethered to this place whether I like it all the time or not. I remain here by choice, by commitment, and by covenant. Thank you.